Hey folks, y'all all know about the algorithm, right? Yeah, so what I need you to do is like, share, and subscribe. I need you to help me with the algorithm. I need you to like, share, and subscribe, and please leave a comment because the more that you do to help me, the more visible this gets, and the more this information gets out to other people. Again, thank you, and let's start the show. Wow. You woke? Time to get up. Welcome to the Thought You Awoke No Speed Limit Podcast. I'm your host, Alvin. I hope you're having a brilliant day. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things here. And, I bring up a lot of issues all the time. So, the one of the biggest issues I want to bring up is something I've been seeing in the news. And it just seems like it constantly is in the news. It's young men, black men with guns. And why the ones I'm going to talk about today are in particular are people who are sort of on the front page. They're going to be on the front page. So there's some controversy surrounding Brandon Miller, but the biggest news right now is Ja Morant, an NBA basketball player, who decided to go to a nightclub, take his shirt off, get on Instagram, and flash a gun. Now, for this young man, that's caused him to be suspended from games. He's losing he's losing money because sponsors have decided, hey, I don't want anything to do with you because you're doing this kind of stuff. It's immature, right? Well, there's a whole culture of guns apparently in the black community that's becoming a problem. So then now I want to tell you about this story because this story ends in tragedy. It's the story of Jamia Janae Harris, 23-year-old mother of a 5-year-old, not a 5, of a 5-year-old from the city of Birmingham, Alabama. Her and her boyfriend, Cedric Johnson, took a trip down to Tuscaloosa to see her cousin, who was also a student at Alabama. While they were there, they went to the Strip. It's a place right outside the University of Alabama. It has restaurants, clubs, and other retail things out there. A lot of people visit there. They went there to the Strip to go to this nightclub. Now, after they left the nightclub, they went to go to this diner to get something to eat. Greasy Spoon, kind of like, if you know what Waffle House is, it's kind of like that. Greasy Spoon, just to get something to eat. While they were there, it's two individuals, Darius Miles and Michael Lynn Davis, approach Jamia Janae Harris because, well, she's a cute young girl. And they decide that they want to flirt with her. Here's the problem. Cedric Johnson, her boyfriend, is with her. Of course, she refuses their advances. These guys come back at her again. She refuses their advances again. And of course, now Cedric Johnson gets involved because he's getting pissed off. These guys keep coming back trying to mess with his girl, and they're disturbing their peace. And so now apparently a small altercation takes place. So Cedric and his girlfriend decide to leave, just to settle things. So they go out to their car. Next thing you know, a few minutes later, shots are fired. Apparently, Michael and Davis decided to get a gun from Darius Miles and shoot into the vehicle in which Cedric Johnson and Jamia Janae Harris were sitting. Now, Cedric Johnson drives off trying to get away from everything. Now, apparently he fired some shots back because Davis ends up shot. Fires some shots back. He drives off. And next thing you know, Jamia Janae Harris ends up dead. Now, they're still investigating this case, but there's a lot of things that are going on here. First of all, we find out the gun belongs to Darius Miles. Who is Darius Miles? Darius Miles was a reserve player at the University of Alabama. Backup player. He was injured for the season, so he was out because he was out for the rest of the season and probably wouldn't play again until next year. So he was out with his friend partying. Who is Michael Lynn Davis? Davis is somebody who's not even associated with the University of Alabama. It's just a friend of Darius Miles, a childhood friend. Seems like he was more of a troublemaker, and we'll get to that part later. But this story doesn't end here. Darius Miles did not have a gun present at the time that they were in the cafeteria. Darius Miles called Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller ended up becoming part of the story because Brandon Miller apparently was first there to make sure that Darius Miles had a ride back after they got through at the club, because they've been drinking, all those things, and that's why Darius Miles was. Brandon Miller was there apparently. Now, when he arrives, of course, Davis comes to the car and pulls a gun out of the back seat of that car, fires at them. Cedric Johnson fires back, and 2 bullet holes end up in Brandon Miller's car. Now, here's the part that's disturbing, extremely disturbing about this whole story. Darius Miles and Davis gets away somehow. They end up back at his apartment. They call the police. They claim that that Davis got injured at some other place where there was another shooting. Police put 2 and 2 together and realized, no, they were here at this shooting. Because when Cedric Johnson and finds help for his girlfriend in the car. By the way, Cedric Johnson is also the father of the 5-year-old child. Finds help for his girlfriend, who's now shot in the face, possibly deceased at this point. He gets help from the police. He asked for help. He said, "Can y'all help us?" Told them what happened, so on and so forth. When these two guys, Davis and Miles, call the police and tell them what happened, that he's been shot, so on and so forth, they take him to the hospital for treatment. Then they realize, you know what? Need to arrest these 2 guys because they were involved in this shooting. We've gotten to the point where this has now gone to a point where testimony has been given in court. Come to find out, there were emails. In those emails, Brandon Miller was asked to bring the gun to the scene of the crime by Darius Miles. Now, here's the thing with Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller had no idea of what was going on or what they were finna do with the gun. Now, he came there originally because Darius Miles kept asking for a ride. They called and asked several times. So he came and picked him up, or was to pick him up. But he said at the same time, Darius Miles asked him to bring his gun, so he bought him his gun. Now, in Alabama, it's legal to carry a gun, right, without a permit, as long as it's not within 1,000 feet of a school. And I guess wherever this is on the strip, it's not within 1,000 feet of Alabama, the University of Alabama. So you don't have to have a permit to carry the weapon. But at the same time, you got to ask a lot of questions about why would Brandon Miller not ask questions why Darius Miles all of a sudden needs his weapon. He said, "Bring me my gun." Or maybe he thought maybe his friend was in a situation where there's people firing at him. Who knows? We don't know. All I know is Brandon Miller was asked to bring back Darius Miles' gun, and Darius Miles' gun gets to the scene, and it ends up in the hand of Davis, who then shoots Jamia Janae Harris, or shoots into the vehicle where Jamia Janae Harris was. So now we have a young lady who's 23 years old, who's dead, who's the mother of a child named Kane. Another individual, Cedric Johnson, who's of course probably hurt, and a cousin that was also at the scene, that now have to deal with the fact that a person in their life is gone. She's dead. That this 5-year-old child no longer has a mother. And as one family member says, this 5-year-old child is still waiting for his mom to come home. That one hit me right here. That one hurts. Hits me right here in the heart, because here we are again with young men making bad decisions. Now, I get it that y'all wanted to flirt with this young girl, but first of all, it was rude to try to flirt with a girl who was with another man. Now, his reaction was he lashed out in anger. He was upset. I would be visibly upset too. I would try to but I would try to calm the situation. try to keep it from getting violent. However, that could happen. Now, another thing that we're not talking about is the alcohol that was involved, because that can make people make dumb decisions all the time. But my question is, where do you make the decision that I'm going to solve my life problems with a gun? So now, here's Brandon Miller, basketball player, superstar. Now, we got to understand where Alabama's position is. Brandon Miller is the leading scorer in the one of the leading scorers in the nation, probably the leading scorer in the nation. He's on the Alabama basketball team that is going to be in the top 25, probably a number 1 or number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. He's involved in this case. In that text message, though the police chief says, I have no answers, there's nothing I can charge Brandon Miller with. He hasn't committed the crime. And there's no sign that there was conspiracy, so therefore Brandon Miller has nothing to do with this. But he is a cooperating witness. Him and another basketball player, Ja Morant, I believe was his name, is another basketball player that's involved in this. But they are both cooperating witnesses. We have 3 Alabama basketball players at the scene of a shooting. One has been arrested. It's no longer with the Alabama basketball team. Will never play for them again. Probably has been kicked out of the university as well, and that's Darius Miles. Brandon Miller has a stain on him. The parents of Janae Harris want him charged with the crime because they feel like he is committing, that he doesn't deserve to be playing basketball right now, that he was part of this that led to this woman's death. And you have to ask those questions about this situation. Did Brandon Miller's involvement, was he guilty of anything? Bringing that gun is bad enough. But what you see here is lives destroyed. Darius Miles destroyed. You see a scar on Brandon Miller's life for the rest of his life. Even if he goes to the NBA and makes millions of dollars, there's always going to be that scar that somebody's going to bring up in the media about his life. And we say, oh, that's the wrong thing to say. No, that's the right thing to say, because there's a family that's hurting that says Brandon Miller looks like he's guilty as hell of being involved in this by the fact that he bought the gun after that text message comes out. Here's a young man, Darius Miles, who makes a dumb decisions. I'm bringing my gun so my friend can use it. Now, they claim in their defense that it was self-defense, that they were not the victims here. But my question is, why run? If you're the innocent party in this, why run away from the scene, call the police, and make up a bogus story? I'm trying to figure this all out. Whereas Cedric Johnson, he went and actually told the police what happened. And again, the problem is we don't know which side is telling the truth until all the evidence is put out on the table and everything, the truth comes out, period. Cedric Johnson had a gun in the car. Brandon Miller and Davis didn't have a gun at the scene. Did Johnson flash that gun towards Davis or something? Because Johnson said the road was blocked in front of them where they couldn't get away. Don't know. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered that aren't answered. But we do know that Darius Miles was setting this up. Because his first text message basically says there's a gun in the car. Second one says there's a bullet in the chamber. Well, third one actually, because the first one was telling Brandon Miller to bring him the gun. Then the other two were to Davis. So we got testimony here as to what happened there. Now, apparently Davis was the one that was flirting with the girl because Brandon Miller's girlfriend was at the scene. Darius Miles' girlfriend was apparently at the scene, according to one article I've read. And he got her out of the way before all the fire starts. And there's a video showing how many shots were fired. It was several. Somebody was going to get hurt with the way those shots were fired. I will say this. Somebody was, and the young woman ends up losing her life. It is... I'm going to say this. I passed by last night, and I don't even want to tell people this, but I passed by a homicide last night. So police there, I saw the investigators, I saw people crying. There is a culture of violence that has been going on for way too long in America, especially here. Now, these young men, I listen to rap music, and I'm not going to blame rap music, but that comes from, what's in rap music comes from that culture of violence that exists. The murder rate in Alabama should not be surprising. It's been that high since the 70s. 123 to close to 150 murders. At some points, it's been 200 murders in this city. Now our population is smaller, and we're still having at least one or two people killed every night in this city. And this doesn't just happen here. It happens in Atlanta. It happens in other places in Alabama, small town, big town, Tuscaloosa. We're talking about Tuscaloosa right now. It happens in Mobile. It happens in Atlanta. It happens in D.C. It happens in Chicago. It happens in L.A. It happens in a lot of places. And we can get all into this about it's the liberal cities and it's the Democrats. It has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with the problem in our society, in our culture, in our world. What are we doing? Now, Darius Miles' mother was a police officer. Let me just put that out on the table. His mother is a police officer. You would think Darius Miles was raised to know better. However, this young man has made a decision in his life by giving Davis the gun, even though Darius Miles did not pull the trigger. He put himself in the place, and by it being his weapon that killed this young lady, that decision has changed his life forever. I don't know what Davis's issue was. I don't know what Cedric Johnson's issue was. I don't think Cedric Johnson was out here trying to carry a weapon around and do all those things and try to be a bad guy. He was a dad now. He had a girlfriend that he probably was going to marry in the future. Maybe. Don't know. But this is the culture of violence. We live in a state where everybody can carry a gun. We could all be standing in the street. And there are people who are responsible with guns, and they have them all the time, but there's a large number of people in this state who are irresponsible, white and black. And we have to ask the question, what do we do? Do we just let people willy-nilly do what they want? We have people who drive cars every day, and I'll bring this up, and I know it's going to make people mad. We have people who drive cars every day. They have a driver's license. You have people who obey the speed limits, who obey the laws, who do exactly what it says. Then you have those who decide they're going to do the exact opposite. They speed, they run lights, they run stop signs, they do all those things. Yet they are in a vehicle. I don't know what's going to change things for us. I don't know what's going to change the people of America. But I do know one thing. Guns in the hands of fools are killing our children. Well, folks, I'm all out of time. I've been ranting on long enough. All I can say is, God bless the family of Jamia Janae Harris. I'm sorry they've had to deal with this, and I brought the story up again. Y'all have a wonderful, peaceful day. Peace.